Hey, good morning, everybody. News today that a Tory council has approved the demolition of Britain's first ever solarium. Now, this is in Poole in Dorset, and this has been approved by Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole Council, which has a Tory fake conservative governing body on the council. They control the council, and the planning committee of that council has voted 9-3 to give permission to destroy this historic building. It's built in the 1930s, opened in 1932. The report that I'm getting this from is in the Daily Mail, and it says something quite interesting, that in the last few years the building has become run down, and that's led to someone buying it up, and then they've submitted plans to knock it down and build a four-storey block of flats with some other things in it, and it's been approved by the council. Now, this is happening all over the UK. I'm just talking about this not because this is just one thing, although it is a tragedy if this historic building does get bulldozed. It shouldn't do that. We should be preserving our history, our heritage, and we shouldn't be running things down in order for somebody to come along and then buy them up and then say, oh, I'm going to make it better by bulldozing a bit of our heritage. That shouldn't be happening. But this is happening all over the country. I know from talking to people in the Heritage Party around who are active locally, from Devon to Surrey to Staffordshire to North Yorkshire, all over the country, local councils are doing this. They have in their local plans to destroy, to ruin buildings, to actually demolish historic buildings in certain zones and then put up blocks of flats or something. So, building by building, field by field, dinghy by dinghy, the fake conservatives are ruining our heritage, our history, our nation. And this is deliberate, whether it's the people in Parliament, in Westminster, or whether it's the local councils on local councillors on committees at local level. So this here, Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole, is just, an example of what's happening and being replicated in many, many places around the country. This shouldn't be happening. It's terrible that our heritage is being ruined in this way. Interesting that what one of the councillors said about this, and this is reported in the article. He said it's an intensification, as though, but that's not really a bad thing. Look, intensification is a word that I learned when I was on the London Assembly. It's a completely new word to me. What it means is cramming more people and things into a small area. So building high, putting buildings closer together, intensifying activity, rather than letting people spread out and have space and build things on a human level. And we see that, in London, you see intensification in all its horror in many places. I mean, you get the train through Croydon, you get the train through Lewisham or any bit of East London, and you don't see any historic buildings anymore. They're just all, big blocks of 30, 40-story flats, just crammed right next to each other, cheek by jowl. I mean, it must be hell for the people who live there. That's intensification. They're bringing this to Sandbanks. Now, if you've never heard of Sandbanks, it's a very, very small sort of peninsula or island. Actually, it's actually an island. It's a tiny little island, and it's really near, the rest of Poole. It's at the edge of the city, but the town actually. But it's a lot of very, very wealthy people live there. It's like an exclusive little enclave, if you like. So, obviously the people there, they don't want much development. They like to keep it as it is. But, even these incredibly wealthy rich people who live in Sandbanks, 200 people have complained about this development happening. The richest of rich people in Dorset. And still, they didn't get their way. Still, the council and the councillors just ignored what they asked for. They said that we don't want this development, and they just ignored it and approved it anyway. So, we see this with these 15-minute neighbourhoods that they're trying to bring in Oxford and Canterbury, that there's been overwhelming response from the public that says to the council and the councillors, we don't want this. But in Oxfordshire County Council have just said, well, stuff you, we're going to do it anyway. And it seems that this is another thing that's happened. So that this is not a 15-minute neighbourhood here in Sandbanks in Poole. It's a development of a building. It's the demolition of a piece of heritage, and then intensification by building a 4-storey block of flats in an area where most buildings are just 2 stories. So it's going to stand head and shoulders over everything else. Everyone all over the little island will be able to see it. It's going to stick out like a sore thumb and be very ugly. But even with that, the council is saying, well, stuff you don't want it, but we're going to do it anyway. So, the Conservative Party, you would think by its name, would conserve things. They would conserve our history and our heritage, but they're not. They're bulldozing it. So we need to get rid of them. And Labour, Lib Dem, Green, SNP, they're not going to do anything different. They would do exactly the same. They don't care about our heritage either. They would run it down in exactly the same way. The SNP are in Scotland, the Labour Party are in Wales, and wherever there are Labour councils and so on, Lib Dem councils, they do exactly the same thing. So we need to get rid of them. And this is where I need your help this year because there are elections in Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole. The whole council is up for election in May 2023. So if we want a chance of stopping this destruction of Britain's first ever solarium, I need you, if you live there, to come and join me and stand as a councillor for the council. And then we can take over the council, and then we can save our historic buildings. We can save our prime agricultural land from being destroyed and turned into housing estates or solar panel arrays or wind turbine farms. And we can keep our land for farming, for forests, for nature, and we can keep our towns and cities in the historic character which has been given to us to enjoy, and we can stop intensification and densification, which involves the destruction and the demolition of our historic buildings all over the country. We've got to stop this from happening. So I'm making this on New Year's Eve, okay, it's New Year's Day tomorrow. I know January is the time where people make decisions to do something. People make New Year's resolutions. If you can this year, please make a resolution to get involved in politics, even to stand as a local councillor. Look, I first stood for an election in 2015. And before then, I was like, how can I ever possibly do that? That's just what other people do. But, I did it. That's like 8 years ago, and I've stood in many elections since then. And yeah, the first time, it's a little bit daunting. But the local elections, they don't cost anything to stand. You just have to fill in a few bits of paperwork and hand it to the council. So please do consider doing that, because a lot of people are distressed at what's going on in our country. But there is a way to stop it. For you who are watching this video in the public, to stop it and turn it back. Don't just suffer silently as our country is ruined and destroyed on a granular level, not just at Westminster, but at the local level by local councils, ruining our heritage in our towns and cities and villages all over the place. Get involved. The Heritage Party is here for you to get involved in, and for you to stand in your local areas, to take back control of your local areas and stop this destruction from happening, and making our councils work for the people again, not for property developers, not for the Agenda 2030 change agents or the minions of the World Economic Forum who want to ruin everything on a local level. A global to local plan that they have in place. So please get involved. Join us in the Heritage Party. We'll put you in touch with your local group if you do, so you can get involved locally in local issues and standing for your local council. And please, if you can, this is totally free. Give me a thumbs up if you would to this video, and subscribe to my channel here if you haven't done before below. So that's something you can do this new year. Please think about it and get involved in politics. Okay, God bless you all.